Hey, push. Let him know.
Protect our queens.
This is what makes women's basketball so fire.
They say nobody watching. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people in there, Martin.
To see how far the game has grown has been amazing.
When recess came, like, I had my sneakers on.
I mean, I just love playing the game. It's fun.
I'm reacting on what the defender does.
I hit them with a hezzy. After that, they quit.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Protect Our Queens podcast presented by Basketball Society. With me, as always, my guy, Martin Sories. How we feeling?
And another night to talk some women's hoops. Just excited to be back. Anyone who's tapping in, watching, make sure you leave a comment down below as we get into the discussion for the night. And anytime you have a chance to tune in live, definitely tap in with us in the chat. And if you're watching live right now, for people who are coming in, feel free to tap in with us. But yeah, what's up, man? What's going on? You came with the Scully tonight, man. Marcus.
Oh, we feeling good.
And the Dallas Mavs.
This is I am not afraid to admit I got this. This is a Luka Doncic jersey. I got it a couple days after he was traded for a cool $40. I told Martin, best thing about watching one of your favorite players get traded is being able to buy a jersey for $40 instead of $180. So we'll take it.
Is Luka one of your favorite players?
He is. I love Luka. Luka's great.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's one of my favorite players.
Look at you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know who my favorite player is, though. But
Mr. Durant, right? That's
Shout
right.
out Cuzzo. Shout out
Cuz-
Cuzzo.
yeah.
Right? You can't go wrong. Cuzzo.
Bloodline.
Got to, bro. Gotta acknowledge the bloodline. Hey.
Oh Lord, don't go. Yeah,
We're not gonna go there. But look,
cross references. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm speaking on when it comes to that. WWE.
As always, man, as Martin said, man, feel free as always to tap in with us in the chat as we're going on throughout the course of the night tonight. Got a lot of great things to talk about. As always, we kick things off with some What's New POQ. And want to give a special shout out to three of our own, Michaela Blakes, Diamond Johnson, and of course, Hannah Hidalgo. Michaela and Hannah were named as one of the as the 30 semifinalists for the National Player of the Year. Diamond Johnson named a semifinalist for the Mid-Major Player of the Year. Shout out to all three of those very, very talented ladies who we, of course, have had the pleasure of having on the show over the past couple of months. Shout out to all three of those. They have had incredible seasons. I saw Michaela also. She's been SEC Player of the Week 6 times, which is, I think, I don't know if it's most in program history or most in conference history, but Michaela Blake's having a very, very, very strong rookie season down there in Vanderbilt.
She needs to be a candidate for SEC Player of the Year. That's what I was going to say. And I'm still standing on, as of today now, where I did the video, I think 2 months ago now, where I'm still standing on Hannah Hidalgo is my front runner for National Player of the Year. The only person who I could see getting it over her is Lauren Betts because her team is undefeated. They have some great wins, signature wins, and she's playing dominant basketball. However, I'm still of the mindset that Hannah should be the front runner based on those big wins she had early in the season. The two people who everyone wants to consider and talk about and love so much, Paige and Juju, she beat both of them head to head. I'm sorry. She's ahead of both of them like automatically. So I'm still National Player of the Year. Should be Hannah still.
Not only did her team beat them, she outplayed them both considerably in both those games. I'm right there with you. She should definitely be National Player of the Year. Shout out to all three of our, I guess we can call them POQ alumni. I don't know. My queen, Asia. They told me Asia Wilson wasn't marketable, bro. They told me Asia Wilson was not marketable. That's what they said. And all she's done since then is sign one of the most lucrative contracts in Nike history, male or female, release a shoe, get her jersey retired, be in a Super Bowl commercial and a CarMax commercial. Actually, like, what is it that Asia Wilson? She had her logo on a jet, bro. They told me she wasn't marketable. What are you talking about? The Asia A1s, Asia Wilson's first signature shoe, releasing May 2025. I got to cop a pair. They're going to be in pink, black, and white, as far as I have seen. I will be getting myself a pink pair of these shoes as a birthday gift to myself for a smooth 150, I think is what they are. A nice little affordable shoe there. 110, actually. 110, actually. Nice affordable shoe there. Shout out Asia Wilson, man. She just continuing to just best in the world, bro.
Shoe is fire. That's the best part. The shoe is fire, and Bam is out there hooping in it, dunking and everything, and it looks good. Good aesthetic.
Yeah,
it looks like a great shoe. So that's
a great
dope.
shoe. Absolutely, man. In other news, as we continue to keep track of free agency, Martin will tell you that I was having a bit of a conniption over the last week or so because everybody that used to play for the Aces was leaving, and I guess I could feel a little bit better. Tiffany Mitchell was signed in free agency. Cheyenne Parker-Tyus signed in free agency, and Dana Evans was acquired via trade. The Aces traded 2 second-round picks, including a second-round pick this year for Dana Evans. So it looks like the bench is getting back to where I guess it should be, maybe better. Man, look, all I keep thinking about, Becky Hammond said this team was going to look a little bit different. I didn't think it was going to look this different. This has pretty much been a complete overhaul of the roster. Hopefully it gets us back to where we want to be, which is a legit championship contending basketball team.
I will say what you have now is what you didn't have before, and that's depth. You replaced Kelsey Plum with Jewel Lloyd. We've talked about that. I gave you kind of my thoughts on that. I think it'll be fine, but now I'm even more impressed because you have the kind of depth that you didn't have before, and those are your big complaints. And I know a lot of Aces fans were kind of getting tired of some of the extras there on the bench. And, you've been kind of top heavy with your big four. When you had Candace, it was a big five. And you didn't really need much else. But now I think with this depth, these are all players who can play. Dana Evans, I think, can do really well there. Cheyenne Parker-Tyus can play. She can really play. And I think she can definitely play next to Asia Wilson. Kind of like an undersized forward, like plate, but she's versatile. I think she's going to do well. These are good pickups for them. That they're kind of, I think they're going into their depth mode now. This is going to be interesting.
If they go get Kennedy Carter, I feel much better.
I mean, that would be kind of the cherry on top. Kennedy Carter would be the cherry on top, but like they just got Jewel Lloyd, bro. They're not getting Kennedy Carter.
You're right, but a man can dream. A man can dream. Speaking of Aces leaving, Sydney Colson signed with the Indiana Fever. Tiffany Hayes signed with Golden State. That one, I think, was the most surprising move of the offseason. I feel like we all expected Jewel to be traded eventually, Kelsey to be traded eventually. Maybe Satu was a little bit surprising, but Tiffany Hayes choosing to go to Golden State and kind of be like their, as you put it, like their franchise player almost, as them being an expansion team. That's interesting. That was a shocker. But two of our bench players, obviously Tiffany Hayes was 6th player of the year last year. She's obviously now off to bigger and maybe better things in Golden State. That's a great pickup for them for sure.
It helps them be competitive. I mean, they have a top 5 pick they have the 5th pick in the draft. That's a good look for them. That was pretty surprising. But yeah, that's going to help them at least be a little competitive right away. Good for them. Sid Colson going to Indiana that's the big story, man. And it's just on vibes. As I saw it somewhere, Caitlin Clark like personally told her she wanted her to come to Indiana. I mean, on just vibes alone, the Indiana Fever, that was their cherry on top for this offseason. Honestly, who cares about the basketball, which she can hoop, but just on vibes alone, if we know what Sid Colson does to just bring energy and morale to a team, to a locker room, like, bro, Matt, that's a masterclass move by Indiana. Bro, they're doing all the right things.
Between Sid's personality and Aaliyah Boston's new obsession with this bow bow bow, Indy's social media team is gonna have their hands full for sure. And then last but certainly not least, Alicia Clark, another former Ace, has returned to the Seattle Storm, and Gabby Williams has also re-signed with the Seattle Storm as well. I think I read somewhere that the Storm pretty much told Gabby, if you want to go elsewhere, we will be more than happy to facilitate a trade for you to do so. But Gabby Williams decided to stay put in Seattle, and for a team that's obviously just traded away their best player in Jewel Lloyd, they're trying to move some things around. It's nice to see Gabby Williams go back to Seattle and stay put there. That's just 2 nice little chill signings for Seattle as they try to figure out what life after Jewel Lloyd looks like. Two great
Yep.
signings, man.
Yeah, and we're about to talk about them in a little bit. They could still be competitive based on what they're about to do. I mean, I love the Alicia Clark pickup, and for her going back there and getting Gabby back, that's huge. You still have Skylar, NECA's coming back, so they can still be competitive.
Yeah, they can still be competitive. As Martin mentioned, we are going to talk a little bit about Seattle, but before we do that, let's toss it back to a clip from last week's show. Like, they have a bona fide playoff contending basketball team now with Kelsey Plum, who's a proven winner in this league, with Rakia Jackson, who you and I talked about ad nauseum, at times looked like the best player on this team, certainly the most versatile player on this team, with a player in Cameron Brink who's going to be back off of the ACL injury. And she, in the little bit that we saw from her, looked like she exactly we thought she was going to be a legit defensive anchor for this basketball team down low. And then, of course, Dearica Hamby, who they still have coming off of an MVP caliber season from her, the best season of her career by far. Massive winners for them. I think, despite trading the second overall pick, which I did see that there was, they did that because there was some questions about who exactly would be there at number 2 overall, which I think is valid 100%, because we've been talking about Olivia Miles being available, but Olivia Miles doesn't have to come out this year. So with the questions there, but to be able to still be able to pick in the first round at what I believe is the 9th pick and still have an opportunity to bring in a high quality rookie onto this team, I think is a massive win for them. So obviously the big piece there from LA, not just trading for Kelsey Plum, but specifically trading away the second overall pick in this year's draft. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of speculation about obviously who can be drafted the number 2 pick. The big thing that you and I talked about was Olivia Miles, but as I kind of alluded to there, Olivia Miles doesn't have to come out this year. She does have another year of eligibility to return to Notre Dame. This isn't everybody that they could possibly take, but these are just 3 seniors that Seattle could possibly take. You got Kiki Iriafen there on the far right, Sonia Citron, Olivia Miles' teammate in the middle, and then of course Anissa Morrow on the far right there. Martin, what's kind of your mindset? Like, do you still think if Olivia Miles declares, Seattle should take her, or do you think they maybe look elsewhere?
If Olivia Miles is available, Seattle should and will take her. Okay. If she declares and she's going to the draft, Seattle has to take her. Yeah. So, and I know we're going to talk about UConn later, but the top 3 picks are so, I mean, we all assume we know Paige is going to be the number 1 pick. I'll just say this quickly. Right now, Paige isn't really playing like the number 1 pick. Olivia Miles is playing like the number 1 pick. If we're talking about, and I've already alluded to on here game-changing Olivia Miles can be at the next level, in my opinion, and how I believe she will change a franchise right away with her style of play if you just give her the ball and she is the point guard in the system. In that sense, and in the sense of like excitement, which I've also talked about with Paige, I think if you're being honest right now, if you're Dallas, I'm not saying, like, I think they will and probably should pick Paige on more things than just like her game. Like, she's the most popular player. That matters. She's the biggest name. That matters. But if we're talking strictly like changing your franchise right away, if we're talking excitement level, Olivia Miles is playing more like the number 1 pick. So I just wanted to put that out there. And again, not saying full out that I think they should take Olivia number 1, but I think Olivia is playing well enough for that to at least be a conversation and for Dallas to at least consider that right now. Even though I do believe in Paige as a number 1 pick. That being said, again, if it's Paige 1 and Olivia is available, I do think Seattle will go with Olivia Miles at 2. If she's not on the board, if you could put those 3 players back up. And it's interesting because ESPN's latest mock draft has Sonia Citron going number 3 to Chicago. So if Olivia's not there, it really is kind of up for grabs. If Olivia's not there, I'm going Kiki Iriafen. I'm going with Kiki with the number 2 pick. I mean, her stock or her projection in mocks seems to be dropping because of things that we're going to talk about USC later too. but there was a time where we talked about her as the bona fide number 2 pick, the second best player in this draft. And I believe that ability is still in her. Maybe the way she's playing or other reasons may not be reflecting like her as the like that solidified, like the number 2 player, number 2 pick. But I think I think you still have to consider that if you're Seattle. If Olivia Miles is not on the board, go with Kiki. Let her learn from NECA, playing with Ezzy. What? Like, yeah, I mean, you still have a guard, you know, a good lead kind of elite guard in Skylar right now, even though you lost Jewel. You still got Gabby. So, like, filling out the roster, you don't have to just go with, you know, the best player available, the best, you know, like, and I know I just vouched for Olivia as like maybe the most exciting player and franchise changing. So that's why I think they probably go with Olivia too. But I would definitely consider Kiki if she's not on the board.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I do think, and I don't think this is because I'm a little bit sick in the head, which I told you. Like, I don't know if Kiki's stock dropping as far as where people expect her to go has anything to do necessarily with how she's played. Because as I mentioned on a reel that I posted on Instagram like a month or so ago, she's still averaging like 20 and 10.
Well, yeah,
she's still playing well. It doesn't feel like it because
she's not dominating.
She's not
having a dominant season, so that doesn't make her like the bona fide, like everyone knows she's the second best player.
But I still think, I still think that she is without a doubt the second best player in the draft. I think the reason why we were having conversations about whether or not Kiki should be drafting at 2 is because in the original draft order, you had Dallas, LA, Chicago, and Washington, and you got there's 3 teams that are in so desperate need of a lead guard where
that changed. Yeah. The draft order has changed.
The draft order has changed. And so now Kiki is finally being talked about more as the second overall pick, more decisively compared to what it looked like before. I like the idea of Kiki being drafted to Seattle for all the reasons you mentioned, especially the opportunity to have her learn from NECA. I'm inclined to think also too that a part of the reason why NECA is returning is because that might be what Seattle has in mind, is to draft Kiki so that they can do that. So that
Stanford,
right?
Stanford
connection. NECA certainly has fewer games ahead of her than she does behind her, and that would be an easy transition. And you know how much I love Ezzy. Ezzy and Kiki would be great to see in Seattle. But I do also think though that Seattle doesn't need Kiki the way that other teams might need Kiki, for example, right? The Mystics might need Kiki. And
Mystics need everybody.
The Mystics need everything.
Except for Leah Edwards, who we're going to talk about later too.
Absolutely.
Like they do.
Like
yeah,
the Mystics need everything. So like that's why I was so adamant about, well, maybe Kiki ends up being available at 4 for the Mystics. The thing that I really want to talk about, because you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago when we first kind of reacted to the draft lottery, is what exactly is happening with Anissa Morrow. Because originally I was of the mindset that at 3, because the Chicago Sky already have their twin towers of Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso, they're not going to go draft another big and Kiki Iriafen, and maybe they do draft an Anissa Morrow. And to the point that you made, Anissa Morrow, because of her size, doesn't really have, it seems like, a clear-cut position at the next level right now. But if we're just basing it solely on, you know, how she's been playing so far this season, which she's likely going to win. It's either going to be her or Michaela Blakes for SEC Player of the Year. True. She has been playing great this season. So again, like if we kind of take that same mindset of Olivia Miles, maybe not better than Paige, but she's been better than Paige this season. Do you think, despite the size and the question about where she'd actually play at the next level, that Anissa Morrow has played enough to warrant Seattle picking up, you know, making the decision to draft her number 2 overall and make her, you know, that, I guess, next face of the franchise, or potentially put their resources in that way?
I will say again, I would be surprised if Anissa Morrow was a top 3 pick. I would not be surprised if she's a top 5 pick, and I expect her to be a top 10 pick.
Okay.
That's where I am on Anissa Morrow, mainly because of, like, when you suggested her like Chicago considering her, I'm like, I don't see that. Like, I don't see that. But Yeah, I if there's no Olivia Miles, the focus goes back to Kiki for that number 2 pick. I would think. Now that's why I said at the beginning of, my first take, like all the top 3 picks are connected, because then if there's no Olivia Miles, who is Seattle getting? Then where is Chicago going? Because I've been making the case that is who Chicago should be hoping and praying can actually fall to them if Olivia is in the draft and she doesn't happen to get drafted at number 2. So where does Chicago go if there's no Olivia Miles? So think the conversation gets really interesting, really based on if Olivia Miles declares or not. That's kind of what we're waiting for now to figure out even what the rest of the draft is going to look like.
Yeah, I think if whether or not Olivia Miles does or doesn't declare for the draft, because I agree with you again. Like if she declares for the draft, I do think that she'll be gone in the first or second pick. I think Chicago would probably need to take a look at Cheyenne Sellers. They really need a lead guard. And
so?
Cheyenne, I do.
Cheyenne
Sellers has been playing really well. She's been playing really well in Maryland so far. They've had a couple of rough losses over the past couple weeks that like they've lost some games that you wouldn't expect them to lose, but she's been playing really well for a Maryland team that's going to be really competitive, at least in the Big Ten tournament. They might win a game or two in the actual March Madness, but that's because they need a lead guard. Like, I don't know now, and shout out to them for bringing Sloot back, but like, that's not enough. Like I don't, to me, that's not like, they need someone who is going to be able to play well with an Angel Reese and a Camila Cardoso, and I think that player is
a young someone,
like a young someone, right?
Sloot can play well with Angel and Camila, but they just need.
But we're not talking about just for this season. We're talking for the next 5, 7.
Yeah.
We're talking for an extended period of time. Yeah, but I think they look at Cheyenne Sellers maybe.
You know who I started thinking today? Because I again, looking at stuff today, I was like taking my mind through like, okay, and even as the way the season has been going, like, okay, who am I looking at the draft list and the people available? You know who I'm starting to open my mind up to for them to think about? Georgia Amore.
Really?
Georgia Amore. Yo, that girl is a dog. Excuse me. A female friend of mine suggested to me that I think about not calling girls dogs, and that like thinking about, okay, she is a killer. Georgia Amore is a killer, bro. Like, if you remember, Kelsey Plum has that what is it, like Top Dog or some kind of thing she does with Under Armour, her like private camp where she invites the top college players. And there was a great group there. I should have looked it up. Raven Johnson and all kinds of guards were in there at the time. Haley Van Lith, all kinds of people. Georgia Amore won the MVP of the camp. Georgia Amore, like, she gives out like an MVP, best player during the session or whatever, who plays the hardest, who gets after whatever. Georgia Amore won that. And if you watch her, I mean, yeah, she's only 5'6", 5'7", but the girl is a big time shot maker, big time player. These are just things that I would like look at and consider, because she's really good. She's really good. She may not be at the top of the board. I'd like the idea of a Cheyenne Sellers. But in terms of guards, like, I think you can look at some different options, and she should be one of them, man. She's like that. Like, she is like that. She's tough.
Yeah, the only other player I could even think of Chicago drafting for no and I don't think she'll be a top 5 pick. She might not even be a first round pick, depending on how things went, because last year when I was at the draft, I was shocked to see some of the players drafted when they were. Is maybe they draft Tahina Paopao. Tahina Paopao is not better, in my opinion, than Georgia Amore. She's not better, to my opinion, even than Cheyenne Sellers, just based on what we've seen so far this season. But Tahina Paopao, we know, plays well with Camila Cardoso. They won a national championship together last season. So, like, that would be the only other player. If we're specifically saying Chicago's just only locked in on guards, that would be the only other player. I hadn't considered Georgia Amore, and now that I think about it, that would be a really good pick as well. But I feel like it's probably going to be between those 3 if Chicago's really, really, which they should be, really, really looking to hone in on getting their lead guard to pair with their 2 twin towers. would be Tahina Pow. She's consistently been one of the best 3-point shooters in the country the past couple seasons since transferring from Oregon to South Carolina. She hits big shots in big time moments. And just like I said, the pick and roll between herself and Cardoso, we know it's effective because we saw it in college for, a year last year on the way to a championship. So, that's going to work as well. And her playing off Angel. Again, you and I talked a lot about how Angel Reese needs a lead guard who can really help her take her game to the next level. I don't know if Tahina Pow would be able to do that to the level of a Cheyenne Sellers or even a Georgia Amore, but I imagine that maybe Tahina Pow might be on Chicago's radar to draft. But I just think number 3 might be too high. I don't know if they'd be able to justify taking her so early in the draft. Maybe if she's still on the board in the second round, but I don't know if they'd be able to justify taking her that early at number 3.
Pow she's going to go top 10. I saw a mock with her going 7 to the Sparks still have that number 7 pick. They're going to get a good player. They're probably going to get another guard, and they can get a good guard. Sanaya Rivers is out there. People are out there. So I wouldn't be mad at Pow. Someone's going to take a swing on Pow, and she's going to be a good player. She's going to be a good pro.
You mentioned when we were talking about Kiki, there's a little bit more to unpack with USC. Let's toss it back to a reel that you posted on the page a couple months ago.
If Juju Watkins wins a national championship with Lindsey Gottlieb as her coach, she is the greatest college basketball player ever. This is not hyperbole. It is that bad. Yikes. Ever. Nope, can't hear you, buddy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, there you are.
Okay.
There you are.
I'm having a hard time with USC. I did post a reel on the page. I got a little bit of backlash from a couple people in the comments just questioning whether or not USC is actually a title contender this year because of some of the things that we've seen from them. They struggled immensely in a game against UConn that they did win. They struggled immensely in a game on it wasn't MLK Day, but it was around MLK Day against Maryland that they won, and they just lost to Iowa a couple days ago. Like, where are you right now on USC? We're talking about title contenders. Would you be putting USC in that conversation?
Yeah, they're a title contender because they have really good players, and that's why they're winning games. I was in arguments with one really specific person, must have been a USC fan, in YouTube comments, who was trying to defend. And listen, I'm not like, I mean, because I wrote, I think in the caption, and someone was replying to the caption I wrote, that, I mean, USC has a dreadful offense. Watching them play basketball literally dreads me, because I see two great players, Juju and Kiki, doing great things, and they have other really good players too. I mean, it's not just the two of them. But I don't see ball movement. I don't see system. I just see them winning games off of talent. And they're a title contender. Like, they're going to be an Elite 8 team just because they have the players, they have the talent. But I mean, if you're asking me, like, do I think they can actually win it? That's why I felt like we should play that video, because it's like, if USC somehow wins a national championship, if Juju Watkins wins the national championship, we're going to have to give her a lot of clout and credit, because this is not it's going to be, if they win the national championship, it's going to be because she was the best player by far. That's how that team operates and runs their offense, and that's how they function, on Juju just dictating everything when she wants. Marcus, I'm at the point now where, and I'll let you go, I am still needing to be convinced that Juju Watkins makes other people better. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. Like, if you're just a naturally great passer, that makes you that. She averages, I think, 5 or 6, or no, that's rebounds. She averages 6 rebounds a game. I don't know how many assists she averages a game, but I mean, USC as a team is 23rd in the country in assists. They average 17, and listen to the type of teams that are in the top 10 in the country in assists: UCLA, Notre Dame, so at least some of the top 5, a few of the top 5 teams in the country are top 10 in assists in the country. Now, South Carolina is like 34th in assists or something. And USC they average 17 assists. It's only a few less than what UConn, third in assists in the country. We're going to talk about UConn in a little bit. And UConn's at 21 assists per game. USC is at 17. So it's only it's only 4 assists difference, but it still says something about when because I watched the game. I'm not just going off numbers. I've watched them enough this season to see, wow, I don't see a real system. Like if they win it, it's just going to be on Juju. And right now I'm still needing to be convinced that she makes other people better.
Everything you just said is why I don't think they're a title contender, because in February, like the cream rises to the top by this point in the season, right? Like UCLA is the best team in the country by far, and it has a lot to do with how great Lauren Betts has been this season, right? If UCLA and USC matched up, which they will twice before we even get to conference tournament time, which they will twice, UCLA is going to win both of those games, and likely handily. And those both games are going to be games where Juju's going to have to play out of her mind, because whatever Kiki does is going to be canceled out by whatever Lauren Betts does, because Lauren Betts has been probably the best player in the country this season. They average around similar numbers. Like, it's just going to cancel out. Juju's going to have to be that much greater in order for them to win this game, because they lack that much talent-wise compared to UCLA. If Notre Dame and USC match up in the tournament, it's going to be exactly what we saw a couple months ago. Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo are going to have their way. They're going to run circles around everybody. It's not like when I sit down and I watch USC play basketball, and maybe I view it differently because I've never actually played basketball in any real competitive setting outside of just pick up in the church parking lot. I don't like what I see sometimes. Like, and so in that video that I posted on the page, I said, yeah, like, okay, is their best win the win against UConn or the win against Maryland? And not to discount those wins, because UConn's a really good team, as is Maryland, but Juju struggled in both of those games. She fouled out in the game against Maryland, and in the game against Maryland, they were down double digits for most of the game. Like, I've yet to see USC have a signature win this season. And if you go down the list of teams, if you go down just the top 5 teams in the country, UCLA's best win this season has been against South Carolina. South Carolina's best win this season was when they beat the brakes off of TCU. Notre Dame's best win this season was against USC. Texas just had their best win of the season a couple days ago. They beat South Carolina. And like UConn's best win of the season, it's a tough one. I think they beat, no, that was Notre Dame that beat Texas in double overtime, but they have a good win this season as well. Like I've yet to see USC look like a championship contender this season. And if you're telling me that just off the strength of Kiki Iriafen and Juju Watkins, this team's going to win a national championship, I have concerns, because Lindsey Gottlieb's going to be outcoached in any game against any of those teams that they have to play against to get to a national championship. And that's why I don't want to sit here and deny the talent and be dismissive, because I was excited, as was everyone else. And I think that both these players individually are great, but for some reason, it's just not clicking. And maybe this is the Haley Van Lith story of this year from last year. Haley Van Lith went to LSU, and for some reason, it just wasn't clicking, right? This just hasn't been clicking this season, despite the fact that they've won as many games they've won, and, you know, are going to be in the thick of it and be an elite 8 team, like you said.
Unfortunately, I feel like Juju's in a spot where somebody, a coach, this would usually be a coach, has to get her to. And I don't think she's a selfish player. She's obviously a great scorer, and I love watching her score the basketball. But it looks like she uses passing as a last resort. Like, she wants to score first. And as someone who has played and who was a scorer and all that, like, I get the mentality of, like, I trust myself. Like, I've made so many different shots. Like, sometimes it doesn't matter if I see 2 people, 3 people. But even in that, that Iowa game, the game started 17-1. Iowa started that game on a 17-1 run. Now, USC came back and had their own like 18-1 run, and then they were up 29-28 at halftime. but the possession, like literally Iowa is just packing the paint in this little zone, just waiting, just basically it wasn't even a box and one. It was just a condensed zone focused all on Juju and making her make the kick out passes. And when she did, they were getting good looks. So I don't want to just simplify it to just Juju's got to pass the ball more and they'll look better. But the way that system is set up, or lack thereof, by Lindsey Gottlieb, I do not see. Iowa won that game because everybody's doing something. Lucy Olson, Hannah Stokey, a Falter, Taylor McCabe, who's coming on as one of the, I told you earlier in the year, and I'll pull the clip, even though the audio was bad because somehow you didn't know that my mic wasn't on. But I told you earlier in the year that Iowa was better than people realized. They're doing it by committee. They're still playing fast and shooting threes. They're still playing a fun style, and they play together. So everybody gets to, they got two really good bigs in Hannah Stokey and Addison O'Grady. They have a system. They play together. So the styles couldn't have been different. Couldn't have been more different between Iowa and USC. That's how Iowa beat them. And USC has the USC system is let Juju come up and just decide what she wants to do. She might take a shot and look, she might hit it. She might score, but I see no continuity to USC's offense. They are literally just playing off talent. And so Juju is at the point now where someone has to convince her, like, hey, like Phil had to convince Michael and Kobe at different times, you have to trust your teammates. Like, I know you're the best scorer. We love you. We rely on you. We will go to you. But it's time for you to start playing a little more unselfish. I don't think she's selfish. I don't think she really plays that way. It's just that when she finally gives up the ball, and the ball does not pop on that team. It's one pass, two passes, sometimes no passes, and a shot goes up. Yeah. That's definitely not winning a national championship unless Juju was about to go to seriously, like I said in that video, a GOAT level, like just tearing everybody up and nobody can stop it. But people know how to stop that kind of basketball too easily.
Look, USC plays UCLA tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And
that could be their signature win. I mean, they have a chance. They played them twice. They have a chance to get a real signature win. UConn is their signature win so far.
It is. But Martin, based on what I've seen from USC to this point in the season and based on what I've seen from UCLA this point in the season, I have no reason to think that USC is going to beat UCLA tomorrow. I certainly have no reason to think that USC is going to beat UCLA on the first.
And what's the difference? You said that it's not the talent, bro. UCLA doesn't have that much more talent than USC.
They don't have that much more talent at all.
Has the best individual. Bro, rank the top 5 players. USC has the 2 best players.
They do.
2 of the 3 best players. Lauren Betts is up there.
Yeah.
USC is 2 of them. It's not talent, bro.
It's
and they have talent. Kennedy Smith is very good. Rhea Marshall, very good. USC has very good players. This girl, Avery Howell, who came in the Iowa game in the second half, number 23, hitting shots, driving baseline, reverse layups. Like they've got really good players. There's no system.
There's no system.
UCLA has a system. That's why they're undefeated. That's why they're the number 1 team in the country. That's the difference between these 2 teams.
And the lack of system is why I have a hard time. Like, again, I'll give them Elite 8 because they have talent. But, like, even that for me is tough because if they have to go up against a team like South Carolina, against a team like Notre Dame, against a team like UCLA, even against a team like Duke.
It could be crazy. I'm not saying like they'll just get upset, but if it's a team that moves the ball,
has a system,
is
going to give them problems. Like that's why I'm saying at this point, the system, again, you play ball. So you tell me when I'm wrong here. As someone who has watched a lot of sports in his life, this close to playoff time, the system should be established. And if your system is letting your best player walk the ball up the court and just decide what she's going to do with it once she crosses half court, in my experience watching the game, that is not a championship level system. Now, you played the game, so maybe I'm wrong there. But in all the years I've watched basketball, no team without any sort of direction, no team without a coach who has any type of idea what's going on. And I'm not saying Lindsey Gottlieb's a bad coach. What I am saying, though, is that clearly not a lot of thought was put into what this team was going to look like or should look like with Kiki there. And if there was a lot of thought put into it, and this is the best option, this is the product that's being put on the basketball court on a nightly basis, I have a concern as a consumer of the product if the goal is to win a national championship. This isn't going to do that unless they have some crazy awakening after UCLA puts hands and feet on them tomorrow night for the world to see.
Yeah, I mean, last quick thing I'll say on this, we've talked about, people love talking about and comparing the nature of Juju versus Caitlin. And this is part of what made Caitlin so great. And again, what I still need to see from Juju. Caitlin led the country in assists, bro. There was no question about how she made that team better. Now, she also had the freedom to dribble up and do whatever she wanted and take a shot. But you could trust her decision-making where and look, we also know that she had a Kobe side to her where she didn't feel like passing to her teammates. She didn't think that they would do better than she would with the basketball. She trusted herself more than them at times. That started to come out a lot more, how she was kind of one of those best player bullies on her team and getting frustrated with her teammates. So that was a thing. But again, she led the country in assists. The way she led that and led them to the Final Four national championship appearance. So that, again, that's what Juju has to show me. That's why Caitlin made it to the national. That's part of what made her so great, in addition to the deep threes and everything. I always talked about her pace and her ability to push the ball and pass the ball. That's part of it. Juju so far to me is just a great scorer. Just a great scorer, really great scorer. And I love me some scorers. I'm a scorer. And so you have to learn to do other things great. It's if you're going to be an all-around great player, if you're going to be the GOAT, you got to do more than just be a great scorer.
Well, let's switch gears. Let's talk about another team that's supposed to be a title contender, but also has some concerns, specifically a clip of head coach Gino Auriemma.
Paige has had trouble getting going. It seems like in a few of these bigger games now. Just what do you feel like is kind of the block with her in terms of being able to start as hot as she has in big East play?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a real kind of conundrum. Paige wants the ball in her hands all the time. Then when they trap her, she don't want the ball in her hands. So now we try to get her moving from one thing to another, moving without the ball. And, it's so. So we've got to come to some sort of definitive thing here, how we're going to handle it. But right now it's not the winning edge for sure. And passing up stuff, like, I don't get it.
Wow.
These comments from head coach Auriemma came after UConn dropped a game to Tennessee a couple days ago. A couple months ago, before we took our break, you and I on the show talked about whether or not Paige was overrated. And the consensus between both of us is that no, Paige is not overrated, but she's just not playing at the level that we're used to seeing her play for various reasons. The main point that you mentioned, obviously, her lower body has been through a lot. If you think about all of the injuries that she suffered during her collegiate career, I feel like UConn's in the same boat as USC. Should we be concerned about UConn this close to the tournament? And especially if Coach Gino is saying that he even has some concerns about the way that Paige has been playing this season.
Well, remember what I said. They're top 3 in assists in the country, so they're not in the same boat as USC, and they have a system. That's the difference between them and a team like USC. But, going back to that game, USC beat them on talent. Remember we watched that game earlier this year. We were both watching, texting each other. USC's possessions were atrocious at the end.
They were god-awful.
UConn was just worse than them. UConn does have their own issues, but USC just ended up beating them because Juju was that much better than Paige, was that much better than their best player at the time. So that's how they won that game, basically, and that's how they can continue to win games, even if it's not pretty or if it's not what we like. That's why I'm like, they could be Elite 8. They could be Final Four. Like, their Juju's that good. Kiki's that good. They have good players. They could do it. What I've realized about UConn watching that Tennessee game back, they are now a finesse team. One thing I've realized is that they have embraced the fact that they're a finesse team. And I don't think Gino likes that. I don't think that's their nature. I don't think that's their history. And I think what's happened is they're taking, which is what happens in sports, especially in basketball. The team takes on the identity, and in other sports too. The team takes on the identity of the best player, and finesse doesn't have to mean soft. It can mean there can be some soft tendencies, but it's not just saying you're soft. Finesse can be complementary. Finesse is just kind of like a style, but Tennessee was punching them in the mouth, pressing them. Athleticism, Tennessee, man, we got to watch out for them. That Spearman girl, Jewel Spear, Z Spearman, that dual forward, she is just like tough to deal with. Super athletic, and they're pressing, they're shooting threes. I think her name's Kim Caldwell, the coach, is doing a really nice job there. But their style was overwhelming UConn with athleticism and speed and shooting. And it was a good game down to the end. Paige hit a big three down the stretch. AZ hit some big shots, but they were even going at AZ. Rebecca Lobo mentioned it on the broadcast at one point that Gino should take AZ out because Tennessee was going at her so much, and they were defensively. So I just think, you look at UConn's guards, it's just looking finesse. Like there's not much pop or athleticism. No one's really able to take over the game besides Paige. And of course, my other point is Sarah Strong. And I mentioned it before that she is now the story at UConn. By March Madness, maybe during March Madness, it should become more of a story that Sarah Strong is actually the best player on that team, because she has the most ability to do what she wants and operate and move as she wants with her size, her strength, her shooting touch. She is on a different level. I don't know why I don't want to say, but I don't want to just flat out say she's better than Paige, probably just because of the experience. She's a freshman. Paige is still big time, still super efficient. But this girl, Sarah Strong, is what makes UConn special right now. And she's a freshman, and that's not a bad thing. But even Sarah, like she's more physical and overpowering than like Paige, but like the team is more like Paige than like Sarah Strong, if that makes sense. So I think they're just struggling because they're really finesse right now, and going up against a team like Tennessee that can run up and down, that has athleticism, good players, like they're going to struggle when teams really get up on them and pressure. AZ's not looking the same. I know she's dealt with injuries. She's not looking super confident. So it's just, they're kind of just looking a little finesse right now, really finesse.
I'm having a hard time with UConn. For different reasons.
Hard time, a lot out here. Huh?
But for a different reason. I'm having a hard time with USC because they look like they're a ship without a captain. I don't know what's going on there. I'm having a hard time with UConn because I know, because I've seen it this season even. I know that UConn is better than what they've looked like the past couple of times they've been out there, no matter wins or losses. That Tennessee game is tough. That's a really tough loss. I don't think I've seen UConn struggle more than they did in that Tennessee game. If you want to say the Notre Dame game this season, I got no debate with you there, but Notre Dame has had UConn's number for the last 3 seasons. That wasn't like just an out of nowhere thing. Like UConn has struggled against Notre Dame the last 3 seasons. They haven't beaten them. But this Tennessee game was different. And again, just putting it in the context of where we are in the season, it's February 12th. Conference tournaments start in a couple weeks. At this point in the season, I feel like a lot of this stuff we should have figured out. I feel like a lot of this has to be figured out. Like, you and I have had probably 3 conversations on this show about Sarah Strong potentially being the best player, or even just flat out being the best player on this team. And I think my biggest takeaway from Gino's comments, because even before that, he said some of our best players don't act like they're our best players. Like, Gino, if that's the case, then like, do something about it. Like, I don't know. Like, I like if Sarah Strong has been a consistent presence on this basketball team, win, lose, or draw. She's had a fantastic season. I feel like at some point there should have been a conscious decision to say, you know what, we're going to play through her and see what that does for us. Because clearly what we're doing right now doesn't work. And it's one thing to go away from your best player in moments. It's one thing to go away from your best player for a game or two. But based on Gino's comments, this seems like Gino's been fed up with this for a while. Like Gino's not just going to say this in a post-game presser after a loss to Tennessee just because he's butthurt about losing to Tennessee. This isn't just something he's just feeling out of the wazoo. He's felt this for a while. So again, my question as someone who's never played the sport before at this level is, if this is really the case, if you're genuinely having concern about your best players not actually looking like your best players, if you're genuinely having concerns about whether or not Paige is being aggressive or playing the way that you want her to play, why haven't you made the conscious decision as the coach to look at a girl in Sarah Strong who has been great this season, who I believe is, last I checked, top 5. I know she's certainly top 10 in double-doubles in the country this season, I think, and say, we're going to play through her because something about what she's doing has been working, and like reevaluate. It's too late. It's too late for this. If you're UConn, it's too late to sit here and be like, oh, our best players aren't being like our best players and it's not working. It's too late into the season for this. And so for the same reasons as USC, they're probably going to be an Elite 8 team off the strength of their talent, because this is a talented basketball team. And unlike USC, they have a system. But I don't know, bro. And I'm going to ask you this. I don't know if I would. They have talented players. I don't think they have talented players. I don't know if I would say they have been playing like it, but they have talented players. But like, I don't know what's better right now, which is why I said maybe they're on the same boat as USC. I don't know if it's better to not have a system or to have a system that's just not working, because for both of these teams, it's yielded the same results. Relatively underwhelming seasons up to this point as far as what you expect the teams to look like heading into the tournament. Like, I feel like something needs to give, and there's not a lot of time for it to start giving.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it does come the coach. It is on the coach to get their players going, especially the best player. Like, that is part of Gino's responsibility. But I do think that he trusts his players and gives them a lot of the responsibility of making the plays, and the players do have to make the plays. And so I think that he is noticing what I have talked about with Paige, and I think it keeps happening, and that she is just listen, she's not, she is a very smart, efficient, talented, skilled, high level basketball player. But for different reasons, for whatever reason, her nature right now is not to just go out and completely dominate the game. She can, in moments, she will hit big shots, but it does seem like she's being not that she's being passive, but she's not a dominant player right now. Sarah Strong has more of the ability to be dominant, and that's not on. I think Gino's just frustrated seeing that play out. Now, he should help her do something about it, but it's on her. And I will say, to the talent point, they're missing, like, when I think about UConn's great teams, they don't have like a signature wing, which I think is hurting them personnel wise. Like I said, their guard unit, like when they have Paige, Caitlin Chen, and AZ on the floor, they're small, they're thin. Like, Paige is a good defender, but she's not. But they're lacking like the athleticism and like a dynamic wing like that. When I think of like a Swin Cash that they've had, like they've had them over the years, but they don't have that. So I do think their system is still working, and I think it will get them. They will win games because they still beat you on back cuts. They still have, to your point, they still have talented players, and they can still make things happen. Sarah Strong is going to come on strong in the tournament, and they're going to be a Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8 team as well. They're still going to be that because they are that good. But again, they lost to USC, so we see what happens when they come up against a team that does have talent and can just beat them if they have the athleticism and the scoring to overpower them. So that's where the concern comes for UConn.
Before we get into Unrivaled, the last thing I'll say is this. Sarah Strong right now leads this team in rebounds per game, steals per game, blocks per game. She's our second leading scorer behind Paige. I believe she's like second or third in assists. I know Paige leads the team in assists, obviously. In 4 days, UConn plays South Carolina.
That's right. Sunday afternoon.
that's their last chance. Like, I mean, look, I mean, they've got, I mean, they're beating the brakes off St. John's right now. That's cute. Like,
Yeah,
they've got
Providence and
Seton
all
Hall,
that.
they've got Butler, they've got Creighton, and they've got Marquette. They have one shot
To show
one
who they can-
opportunity.
Yeah,
Sunday
This
afternoon
Sunday.
against South Carolina. And
That's right.
and as a South Carolina fan, and you and I have talked about this,
That's a big
if
game for them too.
it's a big game for them too. If that is not a Sarah Strong game, like if that is not a game where Sarah Strong has her fingerprints all over it from wire to wire, because you and I have talked about how really weird it's been watching the South Carolina team without a dominant presence down low, and we've seen twice now this season them succumb to that absence down low. If UConn can't figure it out in 4 days, I don't care that they're beating St. John's by 30. Beat them by 50 for all I care. If they can't figure it out Sunday afternoon, I think that game's going to be very, very telling for just how far they can go in the tournament if they continue to look weird and discombobulated, and if Gino continues to be unpleased with how they're looking. Like, that should be, if there's ever a time for Gino to say, you know what, we're just going to go to Sarah Strong and just see what happens, that game against South Carolina would be the game to do that, in my opinion.
She's going to be their best matchup, just like she was against Notre Dame. It's going to be their best matchup advantage.
Well, listen, you and I were very excited when Unrivaled announced. I think we pretty much reacted to every single player announcement for Unrivaled as they were being unveiled in the build-up. They started the one-on-one tournament this week. It started on Tuesday. The quarterfinals, the second round of the quarterfinals were last night. We've now reached our final four, and what a final four it is. Martin Sories in the first semifinals matchup. This one is the one I'm most interested to get your thoughts about. Arike Agumbawale takes on Aaliyah Edwards, who absolutely smoked Stewie in the first round. I think she beat Stewie in under 2 minutes in that game. Who do you have winning? Who do you think is going to win this first semifinal matchup to advance to the finals of Unrivaled's one-on-one tournament?
I actually think that Aaliyah Edwards' win against Alicia Gray was even more impressive than beating Stewie. That game was crazy. That was a crazy game.
It was.
It's really cool it should be cool for you as a Mystics fan. We've talked about how depressing it is for them, but this is a great sign. This is so cool with Unrivaled too. The fact that you get to see different players shine. In the other matchup, we've got Azare Stevens, who that's a real matchup right there. But this is going to look to me a lot like how Arike's game against Satu went last night. I mean, Arike's advantage is that she can get a couple threes going. They're playing to 11. Now that I have a feel for how these games are set up, now I know how I can assess what's going on. Now that I've gotten to be able to watch this stuff, it's really interesting, man, because they're going. It's set up. This thing is fire, bro.
Physical, isn't it?
And really interesting conversations happening as a result, which we'll get to quickly before we get out of here too. But it's going to look a lot like Satu. So Arike's got to get a couple threes off, get those side steps. Aaliyah Edwards is just showing how she really is one of these really tough, versatile players out here, because she'll go off the dribble. She's super strong. She can shoot the ball. So that's where it went on one-on-one. These guard big matchups, like I had mentioned in my video talking about this, the guard big matchups are fascinating because these bigs aren't just bigs. Shakira Austin beat Chelsea Gray in the first round. These are like, and look at 3 out of the 4 left. They're not bigs, but they're versatile forwards. Like all of them, I would probably say are dual forwards. And then you've got one guard in Arike. So that's going to be a tough matchup for Arike, the way Aaliyah is playing. If I had to make a pick, I think I would say, man, that's going to be tough. Definitely depends on who's getting ball first. That would be a factor. I think I'm going to go with Arike. I think they play to 11. So I think she will get at least a couple threes off. That always makes a difference. Aaliyah, man, she is tough to stop because you know what it is about Aaliyah too? She's super coordinated. So for like a guard, when you're playing one-on-one as a smaller player, if you're playing against a bigger player, all you can really do is cut them off. because you're quicker, but they're bigger. But if it's somebody coordinated who's bigger, then when you cut them off, they can still keep the dribble, get the low dribble, or go like Aaliyah's going between the legs below the free throw line, like changing direction between the legs. So it's not just a big girl like backing you down. She's facing you up, making side to side moves. So that's what's going to make it tough, man. Enrique's got to get consecutive stops. And I don't know. That's tough. I'll give Enrique the edge, but she's got to hit a couple threes. That's what I'm banking on.
I think Aaliyah Edwards is gonna win. I really do.
You think it's gonna be Aaliyah versus Fee?
I do think it's gonna be Aaliyah versus Fee, and I just want to say this too really quickly about. I know you like to joke that I'm a Mystics fan, and when they're not playing the Aces, I guess I am because of the hometown.
Well, I mean, you're from DC, so
I am. No, yeah, absolutely. And I cover the team.
You like the Aces, but you're from DC, so that's your hometown team.
Yeah. Let me just say this real quick about Aaliyah Edwards. Because I texted you earlier, and we've talked a lot about how frustrated I've been with the Mystics offseason. Let me just say this about Aaliyah Edwards. What we've seen from Aaliyah Edwards in Unrivaled, not just the one-on-one tournament. The one-on-one tournament has been this Aaliyah Edwards in this one-on-one tournament is completely different. But what we've seen from Aaliyah Edwards in Unrivaled altogether, it would be really, really unfortunate if Aaliyah Edwards gets back to DC and plays an entire WNBA season, and we don't get to see any of this because they just throw it all away because they have no direction. Like that's where I'm at with the Mystics right now. We are seeing a different version of Aaliyah Edwards, unlike anything I think we've ever seen before. Like, she's playing a much more physical, a much more polished, to steal your word, a much more coordinated brand of basketball right now in Unrivaled. And if this is what she's looking like alongside Shakira Austin, who on Twitter the other day just kind of talked about how she's been going through it and how she's really hoping to have a fully healthy season of basketball. And you know how much I love Shakira Austin as well. Like, the Mystics are going to have a monster on their hands in Aaliyah Edwards if Unrivaled is any indication. And I would really, really, really hate for that all to be thrown away and flushed down the toilet because this organization has no direction whatsoever. With that being said, though, I do think Aaliyah Edwards is going to win this matchup against Enrique. I do think it's going to be very similar, like you said, to Enrique's matchup with Satu. The one difference, though, is Satu couldn't buy a bucket yesterday. And I texted you half jokingly in her matchup with Dejanay, like, all the bricks they were throwing up, I could have moved out of my mom's house and lived there. Like, it was really, really tough. That's not going to happen with Aaliyah.
One-on-one is very tiring.
I
can laugh at it.
No, it's very, very tiring. I understand. I think Aaliyah Edwards, she played great. I do agree with you. I think that her game against Alicia Gray was certainly better than the game against Stewie. I think we saw a bit. She played really well offensively against Stewie. She only missed 2 shots against Stewie. She played really well defensively against Alicia Gray. If she can put both of those together against Enrique, which I think she will, I think she can win and beat Enrique. And that would mean a lot because you and I both agree that Enrique is top 3, maybe top 2 scorer in the game.
Yeah.
You know, like, she's up there, just like, and she's great. And I know going into it, you and I both were kind of leaning on maybe the best scorers that are in the league in the WNBA will be the last ones left. And that certainly has been the case as we've gone through. Ryan Howard's out of here. Courtney Williams had a great game against Nafisa Collier, but she also couldn't buy a bucket really down the stretch there as well.
Courtney Williams had the better game before that, beating who did she beat before that?
She beat I think she beat Ryan before that.
Ryan Howard, yeah.
Yeah, she was just going. Howard. I was telling my friend Josh,
put it on her.
He was watching on delay. But I was like, bro, I think her first shot was left mid range, and then the second shot she hit was on the right. She was going back and forth between left and right. I was like, dude, she was killing them. But I do think Aaliyah Edwards is going to punch her ticket to the finals. In the other matchup,
I would not be surprised. She's skilled and aggressive. It's going to be this is the other matchup. So. First of all, I wouldn't be surprised to see Alyssa versus Nafisa, and I think that would be fire. Also wouldn't be surprised to see Enrique. Nafisa Collier is winning this whole thing, though, by the way. Shout out to Azurá Stevens, who has made this very interesting, and she's dope. I haven't even been too familiar with her, but she's also another one who is like putting her talent on display. Nafisa Collier is unstoppable right now. She is winning this thing. She can do everything. And you can't stop her from doing it. When you stop her from doing one thing, she can do another thing. It's too much. She's winning this thing, bro. She's winning this thing. Her defense is smothering. Her offense is overpowering. She's got everything. I've never seen anything like it. I think you said recently, did you concede recently that Nafisa Collier is the best player in the world? Did you say that after the playoffs or during or did you just say like she's the best something? Like you said something, right?
No,
like about
what
her?
I said was I did concede that Nafisa Collier might be the best two-way player in the world.
Okay.
I did concede that. She's not better than Asia, but she is.
She might be better than Asia right now, bro.
Well, Asia is
Jesus Christ.
Asia.
Oh,
look,
my
let's
Lord.
be respectful. Okay, let's
I'm
be respectful.
I know, bro.
Let's be respectful.
There's no disrespect saying that your number, I mean, 1A, 1B, whatever, but like, bro, and maybe it's because we're watching Nafisa, we're not getting to watch, but like the things Nafisa is able to do, bro, she might be the best player in the world. She might be better than Asia.
I will say this, and I will say this on the record. We can clip it, we can post it tomorrow. I will say this, and I'm willing to concede this. And I said this to you after the finals. I don't know if we said it on the show, but I did say to you that I thought that Nafisa was going to be a woman on a mission with the way that finals ended in Game 5. And we are seeing it so far in Unrivaled. I'm willing to make this concession to you. If this version of Nafisa Collier is the version of Nafisa Collier that we see throughout the course of the WNBA season, she's going to win the MVP. That's number one. She's going to win MVP.
What we just saw.
She's going to win MVP. She'll probably win Defensive Player of the Year again. If the Lynx can get back to the finals off the strength of what Nafisa Collier has been showing us so far in this Unrivaled period, I'm willing to concede for the first time in my life as an Asia Wilson fan, that the gap between Asia Wilson and everybody else shrinks a whole lot. And there's someone at the table with her and breathing down her neck. I'm willing to acknowledge that. Like, this version of Nafisa Collier is really, 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 really scary. It's really, really scary. She said very clearly, I'm the best player here, and you got to go through me. And she is proving it. And it hasn't really been close. There's not a single matchup she's had where you look at it and you say, uh-oh, she might lose. I think that her matchup against Aaliyah might be the tightest one that she has. I still think she's going to beat Aaliyah. Nafisa Collier has been playing a different type of basketball lately, bro.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know.
The big difference to me, the equalizer would be the 3-ball, because Nafisa has the 3-ball. Aaliyah can hit threes, but I think Fee hits them a little more comfortably.
Yeah. Let me ask you this real quick before we go. There's a couple players that we probably wanted to be in Unrivaled who, for one reason or another, were not involved. If we included, let's say, Caitlin Clark, who a lot of people wanted to be here, if we included Asia Wilson, or just any other player that's not actively in Unrivaled, is there anyone in the league that you think could beat Nafisa Collier one-on-one?
Well, I was about to ask you if Asia Wilson was in that tournament playing Nafisa, how do you see that going? I think that's the only person to talk about. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bro.
I was so ready to just say I think Asia will win. No, but
this one-on-one thing is looking like, just like if we saw the NBA, and that's the conversation we might have to add on, we might do separately, but the whole thing about NBA players, that's a very interesting conversation to get into, because there are guys who would do it. Kevin Durant would do it. James Harden. Guys, they love playing one-on-one. You just have to put it together, present it, and make it like a thing. But like, they're not actively saying, I'll never do that. Like everyone, the NBA would like, okay, I'll talk about that separately. But just like how one-on-one is built for Kevin Durant, it feels like Nafisa Collier is built for the one-on-one setting, even the 3-on-3 setting in Unrivaled. But one-on-one wise, that is her game, man, because everywhere on the floor, she's got something. Asia has really built her game into, I think, where she's the same way, I think. But I've said this before, Nafisa has a little bit more of a guard complex than Asia does.
I think Nafisa would beat Asia one-on-one because she's quicker and because she can shoot the three more reliably. Like Asia's game, even though she has expanded her range and she has added on and built out her game a little bit more, and we saw that this season, Asia's game is still very much down low in the post and in the mid-range. And Nafisa she's probably already, if she's not already, going to be, by the end of the actual WNBA season, acknowledged as the most efficient 3-level scorer in the league. Like, she's looking like that, and she plays great defense. That's why Nafisa would win. It pains me to say that, though, because I worship the ground that A'ja Wilson walks on. Honestly, too, it's a little bit. I actually need to repent for it because it's actually kind of nasty. But I do think Nafisa would beat A'ja Wilson in a game of 1-on-1. There are some players I'm surprised didn't make it far though, man. There's some matchups I wanted to see, bro.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, there were some interesting, developments, but like I said, those matchups, the really Nafisa versus Rakia was fun. That was a battle.
Very
and again,
fun.
she overpowered Rakia, bro. Like, it was just, that's the game that convinced me. I'm like, man, Rakia just can't do this. Like, I mean, it was a good game. It was a battle. She battled, but Nafisa's like the better version. Like, she just, it was too much for her.
It's okay. Rakia Jackson. We'll be talking about Rakia Jackson like this in 2 to 3 years. So just give it some time. It's all right. Thank you guys, as always, for tapping in with us and watching the show tonight. If you are not already, please make sure that you like this video, comment on it, and subscribe to Basketball Society on YouTube so you do not miss any other long form content of the Protect Our Queens podcast. For our short form content, of course, you can find it on YouTube Shorts, but you can also find us on Instagram at @ProtectOurQueens_ and on Twitter at @POQueens_. Thank you guys for watching. As always, we appreciate all the love and all the support. Please make sure that you are following us and tapped in on all social media platforms. And so for my guy, Martin Stories of Basketball Society, this is Marcus of Protect Our Queens signing off. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, you guys enjoy yourselves some women's basketball.